Hey everyone, it's your boy Story God, and I'm back with another video. So last time we left off in my rwby What If series, we had rwby and the gang walk in, and as they did, they saw their father dead. So what happened was, they walked in, right? They opened the door and they walked into the apartment. Now, keep in mind, this is a very small apartment, right? So there's the bedroom, and then there's a kitchen, like, right behind it, right? And there's only a toilet and about 2 bedrooms, right? So one bedroom for the husband, while another room was for the siblings. So yeah, they're forced to stay there, right? Because, well, this couldn't afford anything bigger than what they have. Because like I said, their old home became kind of expensive, and so they had to make do with what they had, and that was what they had: a small apartment with not so comfortable living conditions. I mean, come on, this is like 2 girls and a boy sharing a room. You know they'll have some awkward moments here and there. And that's what those moments are: awkward. All right, so don't get any ideas, because this is not that type of what if. All right, this is not that type. But yeah, so like I said, they walked in, instead of seeing their father pass down a couch or something similar. They walked in, and upon doing so, they immediately noticed him on the floor, completely covered in blood, with a knife not far from where he laid. Right? So there's blood all over the kitchen, blood on the counter. It was a mess, right? So, of course, they were shocked, right? But they did not see this type of thing coming. This never happened to them. Even with everything they did before, because while they made a lot of enemies, none of them really had the guts to actually go after them. Because, well, they were feared. And because of that fear, it protected them. Well, it protected their father, right? So it's kind of like a shield for him while they go out and do whatever they wanted, right? So, fast forward, right? Because I'm going to stop it there. So, fast forward about, let's say, a year. A year, right? So, we cut to Beacon Academy, right? So, you have Professor Ozpin sitting at his desk, sipping some tea, going over the paperwork, and he's looking at something particular. And what he's looking at is the... What are those called? I'm going to say he's looking at a particular student's paperwork, right? With their names, skills, like everything's listed there, right? And while he's looking at it, he noticed that something's a bit off. You know? So he looks closer and realizes that what he's looking at might be a fake, right? And I know some of you are going to say, like, oh, wait a minute, isn't Professor Ozpin smart enough to realize that it wasn't fake to begin with? No. He was busy that day, okay? He was busy. He was busy, and he had Miss Goodwitz look over the papers and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's what happened. I'm sticking to it. But yeah, you notice that the papers were fake, right? And while this kind of caught him by surprise, he didn't really think that was a overly big deal because he knew this a particular student, right? He knew he had potential, right? So, that happens. And while he's looking at the papers, sipping some more of his tea, you had Miss Goodwitz walk into the room, right? And she walks in, and she says, "Mr. Osmond, I believe we have an appointment." Right? And Osmond nods, and Osmond he blinks for remembering, and this causes him to be like, "Ah, yes, thank you, Miss Goodwitz. I almost forgot." Right? So he put down his tea, straighten up his tie, and he gets up, and he follows Miss Goodwitz out of the room, right? Now, while all that's going on, fast forward to an infamous dust company, right? In one of its many work sites, right? So, in the building, you have people going about their day, working, filling out paperwork, all that, right? And while this is going on, you had a woman wearing a hat that covered her hair, a pair of sunglasses, and a colorful looking jacket. No, she had a jacket that made her appear as if she was a part of some food company, right? Some restaurant. So she walks in, she's chewing on some gum. She walks up to the clerk, and she puts a box down. Matter of fact, this doesn't make more sense. Instead of looking like a pizza, instead of looking like a food, oh my God. Instead of looking like she's about to deliver food, instead she looks like she's a part of Amazon or something like that, right? Let's just go with that, because that'll make way more sense from what I'm about to do. So she walks in. She's still chewing on the gum. That stays canon. She walks in. She walks up to the clerk, and she says, "Excuse me, I have a delivery for Mr. Fox," right? And the clerk says that Mr. Fox is busy because he's in a meeting, right? And it's very, very important, right? And the girl nods, right? She nods, and she says that it's fine. All that he asks is that you give the box to him later, and also if the clerk can sign a few papers, right? So the clerk nods, signs some papers, and the girl nods, says thank you, and goes about her day, right? That's what happens, right? So fast forward an hour or so later, Mr. Fox is sitting up in his office drinking some wine, right? He just got out of a very stressful business meeting. So right now he's taking the time to relax, pick his feet up, and just take the time out of his day to enjoy the small things, right? So while he does that, the clerk from earlier knocks on the door before entering his office, right? And in her hand is the box that the young woman had gave her. And the clerk says, "Excuse me, Mr. Fox. There was a delivery sent to you," right? And Mr. Fox is not really fazed because even though he's not sure who that delivery belonged to, it doesn't really surprise him because this wasn't his first time. This isn't the first time of something happening like this, you know. With someone like him, he had a lot of friends, and those friends will give him all types of gifts. And he even has some fans outside of his line of work just because of how good he looked and because of how often he was on TV, right? So he wasn't surprised, right? So he nods, tells the clerk to put on his desk before waving away, right? And so she does so, nods, turns, and leaves, right? And as she leaves, she closes the door behind her. So Mr. Fox, he doesn't open it. He doesn't open the box immediately. Instead, he just takes the time to relax for a minute more before finally deciding to do so, right? So he goes over to the box, get a pair of scissors, he cuts it open, he cuts the tape, and he opens it, right? And what he sees are pictures, right? But these aren't your average day fan pictures or pictures of places or anything like that might be sent to him. No. These were pictures of fondness. More particularly, female fondnesses, right? There's more than one. I want to make that perfectly clear. There's more than one, right? And this kind of shocks him. Because in said pictures, the fondest girls, looked to be, how I say this? They were in very, very bad shape with chains, collars, and whips being sewn in each picture, along with several other men. But most importantly, it showed his face in a few pictures. Not all of them, but more than 3. And this causes him to immediately tense up, right? He thinks that someone's out to blackmail him. Because it will make no sense for someone to just send the photos to him, because they could have easily sent it to the police, right? And as he's thinking this, the phone rings, and upon looking at it for a minute, he answers. Hello? And he waited for a second, but no one said anything. And just as he's about to hang up, thinking it was some type of crazy prank that's going on, nah. And let me go back. So he waits for a second, but no one answers. Right? No one replies. And as he's just about to hang up, thinking that it was a mistake of some sort, with whoever's in charge of downstairs must have accidentally sent a call up to him, only to stop at the last second. Right? He thinks that. Right? So just as he's about to hang up, he hears a voice. And that voice says, "I was watching you. I watched you hurt them. I watched you kill them. I watched you took pleasure in their suffering. But most importantly, I watched you for who you really are. Who you were behind the mask. Behind the so-called good looks and charm. I watched the real you. The true you. The one who hurts my kind. For his own selfish and lustful reasons." Right? And just as he's about to reply, he hears something. Beep, 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 beep. Right? And immediately he panics. So he looks in the box, he moves all the pictures, and at the bottom of the box, there was a bomb. And just before it fully registers what exactly is going on, it explodes. Killing him near instantly. Right? And the bomb was so powerful that not only did it blow up his office, but nearly the entire building, killing at least 12 and injuring 30 more. Right? And outside, several yards away, was a figure looking through a telescope with a phone in her ear, just watching as fire erupts. No, just watching as the explosion erupts from inside the building. Right? She watches and she hums to herself, having handed the phone as soon as it happened. Right? So she watches, humming. Right? And after a moment, she goes for her contacts. And she calls someone. Only to get a message that this number is no longer available. Right? And so upon hearing this, the girl narrows her eyes. And she tries again from a different number. Same thing. Right? Feeling that something's off, the girl, yeah. So feeling that something's off, the girl decides to go for a laptop, right? And as she walks to a laptop, you'll notice that there's a stack of newspapers clippings about fondness, either being lynched, abused, and or raped. And there's several newspapers about that on the wall, including several pictures of individuals that seem to be connected in some way, shape, or form to the ski company, right? And as he walks into the computer, the girl grabs a red marker and scratches off one of the pictures, which was Fox, right? She scratches it off, and then she puts the marker down. She goes into her computer, right? And so she starts typing, starts looking through some things, trying to figure out what was going on, right? Only to come across a news website about a certain club having been completely torn apart with several injured and even more dead, right? It was a slaughter. It was a straight up massacre. It was gruesome. So seeing this, the girl nerves her eyes and she presses on a link to a YouTube video, right? And that video leads to a news channel that describes what happened at the club. And they essentially say that around 10:50 p.m. And this video was titled last year, right? So keep that in mind. It was titled last year. And so, as I said, she clicks the video, which leads her to a news site that explains what happened, right? And so they said around 10:50 p.m., 3 individuals walked to a club, and as soon as they did so, all chaos broke loose. There was fighting. There was the sounds of gunfire, screams, the smell of smoke, burnt flesh, the smell of smoke along with burnt flesh, and a lot of other things that are too horrific for even the news reporter to describe. Right? In the end, you had a bunch of hunters going in the building before forcefully taking out the 3 individuals that went in said building. And upon hearing this, the girl's eyes widened upon seeing who exactly they were. And feeling the worst, but having a strong idea of what had happened, she goes to her laptop and I just had an idea. I'm thinking if I should go with it. 1 second. Okay, so before she, oh yeah, her eyes widen upon seeing the three individuals, right? This made her feel the worst, but this made her immediately feel the worst of what could have led to this type of situation, right? She had a strong idea of what might have occurred, right? Despite that. And she clicks on another video upon reading. She clicks on another video that's titled "The Children of a Great The Children of a Great Huntress Sentenced to life in prison," right? And it explains that the three people involved were essentially sentenced to life without the possibility of parole, right? They even thought about giving them a death sentence, but seeing as they were so young, it wasn't exactly legal to do so. So they just gave them life sentences, right? And that's what happened. They were sentenced to life before being forcibly separated in the courtroom, right? And so upon watching all this, the girl turned off her laptop, throws it across the room, grabs her coat and some gasoline, pours it all over the building, all over inside of a. She grabs the gasoline and pours it all over inside of the room she was in, and she leaves, but not before getting a match and essentially setting everything on fire. That's what happened, right? So she grabs a match, lights it, throws it on the ground, and walks away, right? And she gets outside. She gets in her car, and she drives off. And as she drives off, the building quickly went up in flames, right? So that's what happened. So then we cut back to Professor Ozpin and Miss Goodwitz, right? So they are actually sitting in a special waiting room that's private, right? So as they're there waiting, talking amongst themselves, the door opens. Yeah, as they're waiting, talking amongst themselves, the door suddenly opens. So they turn, only to see a girl with gray eyes. Only to see a young girl with gray eyes and black hair, with chains all over her arms and legs, walk into the room. Right? Wearing a jumpsuit. She had a type of lifeless expression on her face. Her eyes were completely dead, right? So she walks over to the room, escorted by about 7 guards. That's how dangerous she is. Yeah. So she gets escorted into the room with 7 guards, and Osmond immediately notices this, right? He's heard about how this is how dangerous and how fearsome this particular inmate was, even while locked up in prison. Because on her first day, she ended up nearly killing 4 others due to them getting in her face and asking way too many questions, right? So they had to separate her from the rest. So she immediately went into max security isolation, right? So that's what happens. And in this universe, it was like semblance collars. So it's basically these collars where if they are put on, it immediately enables someone to use their semblance. So that's what happens. So she has a semblance collar around her neck that stops her from using her super speed. Right? So she enters the room and sits down across from Miss Goodwitz and Ospen. Right? And Ospen asks the guards to give him some privacy. Of course, the guards refused because they did not want his death to be on their hands. Right? That's too much paperwork, even for them, right? It's crazy. All of them combined, it will take like 6 fucking months for them even to be halfway done with all that. If something were to happen to him while they were gone. Because Ospen's well known, and he's very cherished among the community for a lot of good stuff he's done. Because this universe, Ospen, he done a lot of charity work, fundraisers. He really focused on putting his name out there to gain the trust of the public. So that's what he did. So in doing so, he became very loved by the community. Right? But Osmond assures them that everything will be fine. Right? So after some more back and forth, the guards leave, closing the door behind them. But they made sure to tell them that they'll be right outside if anything. Right? So they leave. And now it's only Miss Goodwitz and Miss Goodwitz, Ospen, and Ruby. Right? And so Ospen looks over at her and leans a bit closer to look at her eyes, because he just wanted to be sure that what he was seeing was real. So he leans a bit closer and he says, you have and before he can even finish the sentence, Ruby straight up headbutts him. Right? And this sends him sprawling back into his chair, nearly falling onto the floor. Right? But luckily, Miss Goodwitz was there to stop him from falling using her semblance. Right? And seeing him hurt, Miss Goodwitz got up, pissed. Right? But Ruby looked unfazed. Right? She was not bothered by the intense glare and frightening posture Miss Goodwitz was making towards her. She looked completely unfazed, right? But before Miss Goodwitz can do anything crazy, Osmond, who have now fully recovered from the surprise attack, gestures for her to calm down, right? So Miss Goodwitz huffed before taking her seat. And now they're all sitting down again, right? They're all sitting in their chairs across from one another. Ruby on one side and Ospen and Miss Goodwitz on the other, right? And Ospen, he looks at her, rubbing his head a bit, right? Rubbing his now newly formed bruise, right? Because that left some damage, right? Because at that time, he did not have his aura up. Because he wasn't expecting such a thing to happen, right? But now he knows. So he has it up now, right? So now he's ready for, if anything, right? Trick me once, same on you. Trick me twice, shoot, that's not going to happen. It's basically his fault, right? That's how he thinks. And so, after a minute or so of silence, and upon said silence, they realize that Ruby is not really going to say anything. All she's doing is standing there looking at him, right? Barely blinking, right? So, Mr. Osmond says that he says hello and introduces himself, and essentially what happens is he asked why she did it, why she killed and hurt so many people, right? Ruby doesn't answer. He asks again. Ruby doesn't answer. So he asks a few more questions, trying to get her talking, but nothing's working, right? He just gets a silent treatment, right? And so then he starts asking about her siblings. And Ruby actually perks up upon hearing their names, right? But she doesn't answer any of his questions about them, right? So this lets Osmond know that she's listening. And for him to keep her attention, he needs to talk about what interests her the most. And he took time to read her file beforehand. And, now knowing for sure that what truly interests her, he decides to go with that. So he says, "Well, Miss Ruby, I'd just like you to know that despite you and your siblings' situation, they were being well taken care of. In regards to where they are currently held, right? And Ruby stares at him. In her eyes is a question. And said question was, where are they? Right? So he didn't say that, but her eyes said it all. Right? And seeing this, Osmond smiles before answering. He was like, well, if you must know, Yang, being arguably one of the strongest, is currently being held somewhere where what's it called again? What's it called? Atlas. Yang, with regards to her being the strongest, is currently being held in Atlas. Currently being held in Atlas in max security, just like you. Right? And he says that he's actually was planning to go and see her next, right? In the future, right? And he also says that in regards to your brother, while having a very powerful semblance, he's fortunately not as dangerous as you and your sister. So he's being held in a place not far from here, much like yourself, but more so in out and about with the other inmates, right? I forgot the word for that, but yeah. And so he says all that, and then he says, I'll make you a deal, Ruby. Join my school, Beacon Academy, and in return, sorry about that. That's my dog. Join my school at Beacon Academy, and in return, join my school at Beacon Academy, and in return, I shall let you and your siblings free. You are allowed to you'll be allowed to leave here with the with the um with the promise that you and the others will stay in my school, right? That was the deal, right? And I apologize for anything in the background, but yeah, that was the deal. And upon hearing this, Ruby actually doesn't say anything. She listens to what he has to say, she thinks about it, and then after a moment, she just shakes her head. No deal. And this actually surprises Ozpin. He was not expecting that. He was not expecting that whatsoever. So this kind of caught him off guard because he believed. Sorry about that, guys. He believed that.
I heard you say that.
1 second. Sorry about that, guys. You know. So, anyways, this surprises Ozpin because he expected her to actually take the deal, right? So he didn't expect her to decline his offer, right? And so he asks why. And Ruby finally decides to speak. And she says, I'm not dumb, you know. If I were to say yes to your deal, then we will most likely be dragged into some crazy event, we'll most likely be dragged into some crazy, I'm trying to think of how to word this. If I say yes to your offer, then we will most likely be dragged into some sort of conspiracy theory or some sort of war or anything like that. Basically, she's saying that if she were to say yes, then that would give him the authority to drag her and her siblings into whatever craziness he decides that is worth their lives and time under his orders. And that's something that Ruby does not like. Oh my god, sorry. That's something that Ruby does not like because she does not like following another person's orders. You right? She'll follow her siblings, but she's not gonna follow someone she just met, even though she heard of him and knows who he is. She does not respect him at all. She doesn't just respect people. You have to actually earn her respect. And just because you're famous and does a lot of good things in the world, while that's a good thing and she's not against that, that's something that doesn't really include her at all. So because of that, she doesn't really respect him. And without said respect, he's not gonna get anywhere. He's not gonna get anywhere with her. And she says that he can, and she also says that she says, oh, and by the way, you can also go to my siblings and ask them the same thing, but I promise you, they're gonna mention me, and when they do, they're gonna ask if I said yes to your offer, and when it's revealed that I didn't, well, don't only waste your time, right? That's basically what she said. Because if she didn't say yes to his offer, the others are not, because they trust one another, and with that trust, they know Ruby is incredibly smart, and they trust her. They trust her in terms of what to do and what not to do in regards to situations like this, right? Because Yang and Yuno are not very smart. I mean they smart, but not as smart as her. And Yang's more of a brawler, so He hits first, he asks questions later, and you was more of a chill dude. So, you know, that's what happens. So, yeah. I'm just going to end it there right now, and I'll talk to you guys in my next video. Peace.